Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're just going to wait for the waiting room to kind of open up a little bit, let everyone trickle in. But thanks for joining us. Art of Balance. We're here with Shreya Shetty, Eda Kaban, Griselda Sastrawinata, and Neysa Bove, all working in and around animation and illustration, all mothers. And today we're going to be talking about how do they balance it all? Maybe we don't balance it, and just kind of having a casual conversation about how we kind of find time for family, but still maintain a career. Will be kind of what I'm going to throw over to the different panelists in a minute, just to kind of introduce themselves. And please feel free to drop any questions you guys might have in the chat. And yeah, and we'll trying to get to as many of them as possible. So alphabetically, Eda, will you kick us off, please?
Hi, everyone. My name is Eda Kaban. I'm originally from Turkey. I've been living in the Bay Area for 15 years now. I freelance full-time. I work as an illustrator. I make children's books, and I do character design for animation. And I have a 2-year-old. Well, almost 3-year-old. I'm kind of in denial still. He's going to be 3 in a few months. That's me.
Griselda.
Hi, I'm Griselda Sastrawinata. I'm a designer at Walt Disney Animation Studios. I'm also an author and illustrator for children's book, and I have a 2-year-old, and my husband works also for Walt Disney.
I guess I'll go now.
That would be you, Neysa. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Neysa Bove, and I am a costume designer currently at Skydance Animation. I'm a mother of 2 little girls, a 3-year-old and now she's 7 months old. So yeah, very busy, very busy.
And finally, Shreya.
Hey, everyone. I'm Shreya Shetty. I live in LA, and I work as a matte painter in DreamWorks Animation. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and yeah, that's it.
And for those of you that don't know, Rachel and I are the co-founders of the Concept Art Association. We put on the Concept Art Awards each year, and we put on programming at Lightbox Expo. It's important to us that we talk about these issues, because a lot of times mothers can seem invisible. And, you know, there are a lot of long hours in the entertainment industry. So we just thought it would be we get a lot of questions of like, oh, I wish we could have more talks about this. That's why we wanted to really make sure that this space was created for, you know, people that are maybe thinking about being moms, or people that are looking for more help with balancing. Although sometimes it feels like balance is a myth. We just wanted to be able to have this conversation. And I have a 15-month-old. And yeah, all the things that Nicole just said. I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. But I guess let's just start with Shreya. How do you balance? How are you balancing? Are you not balancing?
Right now, my daughter is back in school, so it's been a bit easier. I think over the past 1.5 years, it did get a bit hard. I love spending more time with her through the day. But it's also hard when, you know, she's home all day, I'm home all day. I have to work. She doesn't. She wants to show me every single drawing that she's done. And I want to encourage that, but also not get distracted from my work. So it's been a bit of a challenge. But, you know, we try our best, right? That's really all we can do.
Because you sent, when we had this pre-call, sometimes I think like, oh, COVID is done, you know, schools are open, but then I realize actually, no, it's not done. And that's part of why this balance, I think, has been even harder for us this past year. Like what was that decision like for you sending your daughter back to school? Because that is a big part of how we're able to balance, is that childcare, whether we have it, whether we don't. Like, what was that decision like for you?
It was really hard because initially I was not going to send her back, maybe just homeschool her. But then, you know, I had to be like honest with myself. Like, I have no time to sit with her and teach her stuff. So all that's going to happen is she's going to be on her iPad probably all day long while I figure out work. And I didn't think that would be like the best situation for her. So I had like a bunch of calls with her teachers, her principal, trying to figure out what they're doing at their school to be safe. And I think overall, like by the end of it, like I felt convinced that, they're going to be really strict about the masks, and, all the teachers are vaccinated and things. So I felt like safer sending her back. And I mean, I know her, like, I know she listens to like stuff. She won't just take her mask off or, exchange it with someone else because they have a cool pattern or something, which is like my biggest concern right now. And, she's been like super good about like keeping her hands, like, washing, sanitizing and stuff like that. So, so far it's gone really well. But then again, you keep hearing about like incidents around other schools where, the school is shut down, or, the class is shut down, right? So that hasn't happened yet, but just fingers crossed that it doesn't.
Yeah, it's really hard making that decision about what to do, because I know, Griselda, like, you have your son home with you while you and your husband are still trying to work full time. Like, how are you, like, how the hell are you doing that? Like, that's a lot.
I honestly, I don't know. I don't know how we're still doing. Well, this, for the past few months, we have a teacher, one of the daycare teacher, because the Burbank daycare is not open yet. So she's looking for a job. So we're lucky. So we have her 3 times a week. And that has been such a tremendous help. Before that, it was nutty. Like, I have to take a week off every 3 months because at some point the house is just crazy. And I need to take time off just to clean. It's like, I have never in my life, I thought I would be so excited to clean the damn house. Like, that was like the thing that I want to do when I have my time off. But that's just how it was. We would wake up, Norm would wake up at 5, and then we would switch at noon, and I would work until like 6, and then from 10 to like, whenever I'm done. And weekends too sometimes, because sometimes we're just so tired. These days, with having the teacher 3 times a week, she would come from 9 to 3. Like, I would still need to work at night, and Norm still needs to work in the morning every now and then, but we don't necessarily always have to work on the weekend, which is great. So now we, our week off is not necessarily just cleaning the house, but we actually start doing new projects. We build a pergola, and then now I want to stencil the floor. So it's a little funner, not quite as going to Hawaii fun, but it's better than cleaning.
Yeah, that support system is so key, whether that's school, daycare, in-home nanny. Because I know, Neysa, like, you share with your sister, right? Like, having a family member that's kind of, especially during COVID, I would imagine eases some of that stress of being like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, how did that evolve for you?
Well, I mean, like, I think a lot of us can relate to this. In the beginning, it was sort of like unknown what we're supposed to be doing. So like, our nanny, our old nanny, we used to share, we said maybe we should stop having you come, because again, the pandemic just started, and we decided to just watch our kids. That I was pregnant at that time. And we were just watching the one 2-year-old at the time and work. And so my husband would be like, I have a meeting in 10 minutes. I'd be like, okay, I'll take her. And, it would get crazy because we would have meetings at the same time, and you would just see my 2-year-old in the background. I'm like, oh my God, so anyways, like, we're all people, we have families, and whether people at the studio are in the same situation or not, there was sort of like an understanding, like, okay, they have to do this or that. I think there was kind of a camaraderie of sorts that everyone came into terms, because we really didn't have any other option, right, than just to like do what you need to do. And then as the year started going by, we're like, okay, this is not doable anymore. So we got a nanny, and my sister and I shares her, and she watches my 2 girls and her little boy, and it works. But yeah, now they're gonna start, my 3-year-old and my sister's 3-year-old is gonna start preschool with other children. I was really nervous because of the pandemic at first, and the new Delta variant and this and that. But for us, we just decided like, we just need to continue life and just be careful. A lot of the parents there are in agreement that we're gonna, like I just went to Mexico with my family. We tested for COVID, we're good, but we're still quarantining for 10 days before they begin preschool, So if you take a trip, you're just responsible because you're gonna affect other families. So that's just kind of like a common agreement. But I want my little girl to experience preschool, like I feel like at home, you might hit a wall or something. And, like it's nice that she can meet other kids because I feel like she just has her cousin, so.
Yeah, it's hard. My daughter was in her final year of preschool when we had to pull her out in, March or whatever last year. So that there was like a loss that you feel of the pandemic is kind of taking away from the kids because they're at such young ages, their life just moves so quickly. Eda, your son is in
preschool.
In preschool, and I feel, we talked about, some of what Neysa's talking about, the, being on calls, the camaraderie of being in a company, that, being in a studio environment. How's that been for you as a freelancer? Like every time you're having to assert, like, no, this is what this is what I need for my family. Like there's a different understanding there. Do you feel like you're having to fight every time for your right as a mother?
I luckily have a very supportive partner, but when you freelance, you're the one with the more flexible schedule. So if your kid is pulled out of school because of COVID, like you just pick up a lot of slack. And my job doesn't have a whole lot of Zoom calls and like strict timeline, and it has strict deadlines, but not like in a day. So it was just like for everyone else, it was like nuts for us, like initially. But eventually I kind of like found a balance, but my balance was like sending him to preschool last semester when they first opened, but we were super worried, and just like Shreya was saying, like we talked to the principals and the teachers and like what they're doing, like reading every like CDA guideline possible. And after like hearing all the precautions they take, we were like, okay, like we can do this. They had very small pods also when they first opened. I think there were like 6 kids in one pod only, and it was a small school anyway. And speaking of balance, like that was my COVID balance, like for my mental health, but also because we were opening up to risk by sending him to preschool. So we closed everything else. So we wouldn't see real other people, we wouldn't dine out or anything, so like you're taking risk that way, but that reward was worth for me to find the balance again and to be able to work full time again. But we kind of like didn't do other things that that might be risky for a COVID situation. So we tried to balance it. It has been going, we had no issues so far, knock on wood.
One thing that we talked about before is like, how long did you guys wait? Sorry.
By the way, that is one of my favorite things during Zoom phone call, having dogs on the background or cats, like,
Just run, yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
And
like
having
that.
children just screaming on the background. Every time I hear screaming children on the background, it just makes my heart happy that I am not alone.
Right. Yeah.
No, the first
so
6
good.
months of my son's life, I brought him on every Zoom call with me to just like force me, like, normalize this. And he's very serious. So he would just stare deeply into the webcam. So I felt it was, a power move sometimes, but no, I think it's good to normalize.
And it's great to see that with dads too. It's not just moms, but I have coworkers who are dads with just kids, and it's just like, I'm like, oh.
I remember talking to Rachel the first time, and I was like, it's the beginning relatively earlier, and I'm like hiding in a corner, like kid is in the background, like, and then I saw Rachel's kids running out. I'm like, oh, not just me, I can relax.
Yeah, the visibility and the normalizing is so important. When we talked before, Neysa, you were saying that you just recently started this this new role, and you might be one of the only mothers in leadership role. Like how what can we do like for companies to kind of help with the leadership down so that we're making sure that like employees, mums and dads are felt kind of seen and that they feel like there's a space for them to be parents?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like I think I saw a question, but I would want to encourage every mother and father here to not turn down a leadership position just because you're a mother or a father, and you have to take care of stuff. You know, a lot of the times they think of these positions for people that are like kidless, let's say, you know, because they can, you know, rely on them. And I would say, you know, like, I feel like we are the masters of or not balancing. How shall I say this? Like, we're the masters of dealing with many things at the same time. Dogs, cats, children screaming, like, I'm hungry, you know, babies screaming. And I feel like in a sense, like when you're working at a studio, it's like a balance like that a little bit. I'm not saying they're children, but, you know, like you have a sense of kind of divide and conquering your time already as a parent, you know. But sorry, I'm like segueing into something completely different.
No.
But yeah, as far as, you know, if I'm like the only mom in a leadership position right now, I say don't be shy. You know, if you need something, speak up. You know, like I think even now, every woman on this panel is pretty seasoned. You know, we're not like straight out of school, so we kind of have gone through pipelines, we've done projects, you know, we kind of understand what's needed. And you need to know what you need in order to complete a project. If, for example, you need to attend to your kid because you have to take them to the doctor, you have to do that, or, you know, whatever it is, you have to tell your supervisor and just be straight with them. Like Griselda, you're saying you take, you know, a week off to clean or whatever, whatever it is you need to do. I think you just need to be very communicative with your team and just tell them like these are the things I need. And you know, like I complete my work no matter what, you know, but yeah, like I just tell them what I need, you know, in order to keep my family afloat, you know. So if we're doing like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the studio, I'm gonna leave at 6 so I can feed my girls and eat dinner, and then I go back to work, you know. But it's a long day, you know. So yeah.
And the great thing about this pandemic is that people are much more aware and lenient as parents, because for the first year before I have, because I have the teacher, I told them I don't work until noon. I just cannot, because that's the time for Norm to work. He works from 5 till noon, and they're okay. Like no one gave me a hard time. No one's like, oh no, we can't do that, blah, 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 blah. And I really think that if I was still at the studio, they're gonna be like, no, I don't think so. But because of the pandemic, everyone's having trouble, everyone, you know, everyone's doing their best. And I really think they're like a lot more lenient because of it.
Is that been your experience, Shreya, Eda?
It was mine. I mean, again, I freelance, so I think my situation is slightly different, but like even with freelance, you have a lot of clients and you need to like, you know, you can't be late, you can't miss a deadline or anything. So whenever I said like, hey, I'm going to be late, like I'm juggling a kid at home and this many hours of work and whatever, and people were really understanding and everyone was going through the same thing. And you just forget everyone also has a family and, you know, they're in the same boat here. So I mean, there wasn't one single person who was not understanding.
That's awesome. How about you, Shreya?
Yeah, I think my current situation it's been great because like I feel like every person in leadership right now, they're all these amazing moms. Like my supervisor has twins, my manager, my mentor, all of them, right? So I feel like at least it feels like they understand what you're going through. Because I feel like every time, say I had like an art director and I have to say like, oh, I have an appointment, you know, with the doctor or whatever, right? It feels like you're making an excuse, even though you really are not. But I think like, you know, the other parents understand what you're going through. Yeah. I've never had like trouble being vocal saying I cannot make it to dailies today, or, you know, I have to be out from so and so time, but I'll make up time later on. I feel like they've been very understanding.
Awesome. Nicole?
So it seems to me that It's almost like it's communication, it's boundaries, and then it's also making sure that you're in a situation where there's other parents maybe at the studio. Like, would you ever have taken a job at a studio where nobody was a parent? Or I guess how, actually, we didn't, backing up a second, how many years were you all in the industry before you had kids?
My answer is too long. My answer is way too long. It's
Why do you say it like that?
Why I say it like that, because for the longest time, like I've had this, I wanted children for a long time. And then I have friends in the industry, moms who, who's done it, but I somehow don't believe them. Like, I remember when I first joined Disney, we have a producer, Maggie Malone. She was pregnant. And she was just like telling all the girls, have babies, have babies. It's not going to end your career. I promise you, I promise you. But I just don't believe it, right? Like it wasn't, I have to say, it wasn't until like Josie Trinidad that did it. Because for me, like artist is different than producer. Somehow it didn't connect to me. I just somehow didn't believe it. And then now I have Alex and I'm like, oh my God, all these women before me, they're absolutely right. I did not lying. That, like I should have believed them more. I should have just like, yeah, having a child does not stop your career, does not end your career. If anything, I feel like I've become a better artist because I'm way more efficient. I don't, sip my coffee leisurely, the little time that I came back after my maternity leave, because, I used to socialize. I love socializing, getting to know people. Like I do a little bit less of that. Like I still say hi, but I'm just like, all right, I got a heart out and that's it. When before it's like, oh, I'm not in the mood yet. I need to be in the mood to do like certain things. None of that BS anymore.
How long were you in the industry, Neysa, before you had kids?
Honestly, like I can't even think right now. Like, but it's like Griselda said, it's been a long time. And I'm sorry, like I literally just got back from vacation like last night, and I'm just like still on vacation mode. But anyway, and that's balance, right? We're talking about balance. So that was my like thing that I look forward to. Like I got my vaccine appointment and like back in March or whatever it was, and I'm like, I am booking my vacation, and I went and I feel like a new person. It was like that for me, that was my like self-care, even though like obviously I have to take care of my girls and it's a lot of work, but it's nice that I don't have to cook and clean. So that was my like moment, it was great.
That's awesome. What about so that's a pretty luxurious self-care, taking yourself on vacation. I love that. Like on a more like day-to-day basis, what are you doing for self-care?
So for me, it's just like a coffee, like a really nice cup of coffee with a little piece of dark chocolate. Like that is angel singing for me, and it just makes my day. I just have like 2 cups or 3 cups if it's been a hard day, but yeah, that's what makes me really happy. So
that's awesome. Shreya, how about you?
Me?
A lot of the Korean dramas, like I've been binging nonstop. Like it's funny because pre-pandemic, I did not have the patience to watch TV at all. And now it's like each episode, 1.5 hours, 15 episodes, let's do this, So that's been great. It takes my mind off other things. But also what's cool about like once your kids start growing up is that you can start doing things with them. And honestly, like I feel like a lot of the decompressing and de-stressing stuff I do is actually with my daughter. Like we'll do some sculpting or painting, or, I have her tell me a story sometimes, so that's been great. Like it's a big difference from 6 or 5 years ago, where it's like being with the kids is more stressful than enjoyable sometimes. So yeah. But lots of K-dramas.
I love that. How about you, Eda?
I'm a very physical person. I like being active. So my self-care is usually like, and I like the outdoors. My self-care is usually like climbing and hiking. I think that's how I like really, get in the zone and like not think about work or kids or anything else. That's almost like the only thing that rests my mind. So that's really important to me. And the other thing is, I am or was a big believer in like sleep training. So like my kid thankfully goes to bed early because I really need that downtime just with my partner with like no kids around. So that's like, that has been working last 2 years, thankfully. So that is really important too. Like it's great to spend time. I can spend like, the whole day with him, but then like time to go to bed. Mommy daddy time.
Yes. Have you brought
I feel that very deeply.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very deeply.
Right.
Yeah.
Big fans of
He's like
sleep
a
training
little-
over here.
Yeah, and especially like now he's a toddler, and he can talk, he can say no and open the door and come out and stuff. Like, nah. That is not gonna change until you go to college.
Yeah, I think our kid is the same age, right? He's 2.
Yeah, they're same age. Yeah.
Yeah, Alex is at the time where he's really, really trying to master the art of negotiating by
Oh my God. Yeah.
stalling his bedtime. So he's like, he needs to have all his comfort toys. So his monkeys, is his lion there, is his, this giraffe there, is his, I'm just like, oh my God. It's so cute. I keep telling myself, you know what? I'm gonna miss these days. I'm gonna miss these days.
Yeah, it'll change into band-aids and drinks of water, and
I'm noting down all the excuses he
yeah,
said.
it's crazy.
It's so funny. The craziest one this week was he wanted to go to swim class instead of sleeping. I'm like,
oh
yeah, great, let's go swimming at 8 p.m. Sure.
At 7 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Band-aid is a staple every night, and it's always the same finger for some reason. Like when he has a boo-boo, it doesn't change.
Yeah.
I love that it's the same finger.
Every night needs a band-aid.
Yeah, and lately he's been into like wanting to do potty. Like he's so proud of himself, and I don't know how this kid does it, but he can eat every 5 minutes, and like a little bit would come out, and I'm just like, no, you need to stop. Like it's time to go to bed. Hurry up! But he's like, pee-pee,
Yeah, that's amazing. The potty training part of it, like these kids, man, they're so smart. Like at such a young age. Yeah, the stalling, the extra treats, like, I went pee like 5 times. I'm like, that was 1 pee that you.
And the manipulation, right?
Yeah.
Like they just come out knowing that stuff. Like I'm going to make you feel so sad,
Yeah.
So.
Part of me is always very proud of him, like I'm like, oh, he's gonna be okay. He's gonna use his charm to like, survive in this world. But part of me is like, God fucking damn it, I just want this day to be over.
Right.
I just want to sleep. Excuse my potty language. But.
No, that's all right. No, it comes with the territory, I think. We're having a lot of questions in the chat, so I feel like I
was thinking the freelance one was really good.
Yeah, if you see the freelance one, pull it out, Nicole.
Yeah. For those freelancing. So Eda, how have you been handling health insurance? It's been a long concern of mine working freelance and having a family.
Yeah, it is. We didn't really talk about like the freelancing part a lot, but like health insurance is one of the like main issues. Mine is right now, or ours is through my partner right now, my husband, but it's not great. And like when it's either when you freelance and the insurance for families on you, it's going to be expensive. I think freelance generally is like the main issue is like the instability of it. Like it's income is unstable, and you have to pay health insurance and any other benefits like basically out of your pocket. So when the income is unstable, so they're all scary, and like just add the preschool invoices on top of that. And before kid, it's kind of thrilling. I always liked it, but after kid, that is like not thrilling anymore. More like it becomes stressful. So with the insurance, like this is what we are doing right now. But also it's not a great health insurance we have. So like I'm already looking myself, but yeah, it's going to be out of pocket and it's going to be expensive. It comes with a lot of other perks when you freelance, but health insurance is not one of them. Yeah.
Do you have any tips, I guess, for freelancing moms out there?
For health insurance
or no, just for freelancing and balancing motherhood and freelancing?
Yeah, so like I think just generally like try to be positive about it. There's a lot of great things about like schedule flexibility. Like when your kid is at home, say, the preschools, daycares, they're like closed a lot of days of the year. You can really just like relax and like take a day off. It's one of my favorite things, like, oh, okay, let's go on a hike all together or with my kid or whatever. So that's nice. You never have to think about like who's going to drop the kid off at school or pick up or whatever. Like it can be you, you know, and I really like doing it. I happily do it. So that kind of stuff is great. And if you like, when you freelance, like after a year or two, like you kind of like learn how to relax about the unstable income, basically. Because in the end, if you think about the annual income, how much you make in a year, it's pretty much the same. It's just the way it comes in is kind of like in waves. Once you learn how to like manage your money and time, then it's actually great. It's really great. No one is really pressuring you to be at a place at a certain time, or like right now, I think everyone is like relaxed that way because we're all working from home. But it's nice that you can work at your own productive times, if that makes sense.
There's a question here from a dad that I'm curious. We definitely never want this conversation to be dad bashing or mum bashing, but there's do any of you feel that there's a difference between being a mum having a creative career rather than a dad? If anyone feels like they want to speak to that, because one of the things that kind of comes up, that has come up when we've had these talks before, is that historically men have not had the same struggles that women have had with this. Has this been do you feel that you've ever been in a situation where you've been penalized for being the mother when you've seen fathers in the industry being treated differently?
Maybe a long time ago, no?
Yeah,
I don't know, like I think now, I mean, and everyone please chime in, but at least for me, like in my like household, you know, it's a partnership, you know, and we balance things out. We even balance chores out, you know, and sometimes one parent will put in more time than the other parent, but at least in the household. But as far as like, are you talking about at work? Like,
no, I'm just I'm responding to I thought Tom was a man.
Oh,
but she's a mum.
okay.
So my question, so I just want to make sure that the way that I was wording that question was,
I think it's more, I'm just going to tag team that one for a second. I think there's like is there a difference, and is there a societal difference, maybe from a work standpoint, like a company standpoint? Confirmation that we're talking about work. Yep.
I think for companies, I think it is supposedly illegal, right, at this point to discriminate. Supposedly. Some company may practice it better than others, I would say, but supposedly it's supposed to be illegal. That's my understanding.
But I guess like
from my experience, I think it was really great that like we didn't even know this, but like Norm got paternity leave when Alex was born, which we're like, I was not expecting that. I was like, oh my God, this is like the best thing in the world. And so the first 3 months that I went back to work, he was at home with Alex. He was at home full time. And it was really nice for him to say things like, oh my God, most dads don't know how hard it is. He flat out said that I would be, you know, this is like way harder than anything he has ever done. Because I say that for the first 6 months when I was home, but for him to say that, I think, you know, it's nice to have like equal respect, you know, for like him to experience that, and for me to like, oh wow, it's like, you know, this is really great. This means that someone has fought for dads to have paternity leave. So, you know,
that's a really great point that you bring up, is that would be the biggest negative to being a father, is that you're not valued in the same way as a parent.
Well, and I'm a parent through adoption, and I will say the gender stereotypes were super real because my husband and I are very equal, but no doctors, no adoption, nobody wanted to look at my husband and talk to him. We would be sitting next to each other and they would only talk to me. And so I almost feel like sometimes there is kind of that reverse pressure sometimes against dads. And we know a lot of stay-at-home dads and they don't necessarily get invited to the mommy groups, type of thing. So it can be really isolating, I think, just because of societal pressures. But yeah.
There is one question here on from Jamie Rodriguez, either Jamie or Jaime Rodriguez. It's asking that, do you tell someone whether you are pregnant or not, whether you're, when you're trying to get a job? My personal advice is that pregnancy is such a personal thing, and there's a lot of risk that happens. I've known a lot of moms who lost their babies or, have to lose their baby, whatever it is. I feel like it could be very, very, very traumatic. So for me, I would keep it to myself until it was like, maybe it's for sure. Because it could be very traumatic otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Nicole, you can probably speak to that too. Like, that was some of your
I mean, it's if you tell people too early, then you might have to introduce a lot of people into your grief. And it's one thing to invite the world to celebrate with you. It's quite another to whether that's a miscarriage or failed adoption, what have you. So I think it's a very personal thing. Are you comfortable telling everybody should something happen, worst case scenario, more so than being fear of discriminated against or not getting a job? I've known women that are like 8 months pregnant and got the job because they had a great portfolio, so it really, at the end of the day, it comes down to who you are as an individual. Eda, did you have something to add to that? I thought I saw you start for a second. Or
No, I was just thinking myself. I think I waited. I didn't tell to my clients at the moment. I remember I was just thinking about it from a freelance perspective, but I told my agents very quickly. And I told them these will be the times I'll be taking off, and this is when I'm going to have my baby if all goes well, and blah blah. So they're very supportive, so they knew it. But my clients, I didn't tell them. I didn't think that they would think I would drop the project and like disappear. I just made sure it's, in the end, I'm the one who's creating my own timeline for everything. So like I just made sure I was hitting all the deadlines and finishing all the projects before I, went into my little cave to give birth. Like not see the world for a couple of months. So but yeah, I did not tell my clients. It's also something very personal, like Chris was saying. It's something very personal. I was doing my job and I'm doing it from home anyway. They don't see me, or they see me this much, they didn't need to know. It didn't affect anything. But with my agents, I have a whole lot more personal relationship. They're like family. So they're like, yeah, I told them pretty much right away.
Piggybacking off of that, someone was asking, where's that question gone? How long did it take for you to return to work after giving birth, especially you as a freelancer? I mean, you kind of answered it, but
yeah, that is actually that is one of the tough things about freelancing. Again, like there's no maternity leave, no one is paying you for that. So that's something you definitely, I took on like extra work while I could like work a lot without a kid to save up for that. But then again, like it's completely, you're paying out of another expense that you're paying out of pocket. So I went back to work very quickly. It was, I think, like my Kaya was like 2.5 months at the most. And by 3 months, like he was at nanny share, not even at home. And I think I could have lasted longer, but like that fear of like, oh my God, when am I going to start working and when am I going to start getting paid again? And what if when you freelance, like there's always this fear of like, oh, I somehow got lucky, got this great project. Am I going to get another one? Like you never know. So you keep adding it on. And I just couldn't really help that fear of like, what if like people forget about me? So I wanted to just jump back in very quickly. So I worked almost like the week before I had Kaya, and like I got back like in a couple of months. So yeah, but I think it was my issue. I think if you can like keep it together and like feel more confident that like people will have you back, will remember you when you come back. But I was pretty afraid, so I dove right in.
And just to add to that, I took off 4 months for my little girl, but I think like to what Eda was saying, it's about planning, sometimes your maternity leave will have a certain amount of weeks that are paid, then it gets paid by the state, and then you're just not getting paid by anybody. But I don't know, if you plan ahead and you save money and you can take off that extra time, I would highly suggest you do, you know, like this is your time with your baby. And if you can afford to, like I don't think anybody will, you know, hold it against you. And that was important for me. I'm like, I want to have these 4 months with my child. And I want to bond with her, you know, and I did it before with my other one for 4 months. I knew that was the right time for me, you know, and then I was kind of ready to go back to work after 4 months.
Yeah.
I took 6 months off because you know, like Fawn and Josie and Cleo and a lot of the ladies just like, oh yeah, you know, it's totally fine. Like I think at some point, like after a certain amount of time, like I think Disney said that, oh, you know, they don't guarantee your job after a certain amount of time. But then I'm like, I've seen other ladies done it, and then they're still at the studio. I'm cool, you know. So it was really great to see other moms in the studio that has done it. Even like little things like double insurance. They told me about, oh, you know, because, you know, your husband work here, you know, or you can do this thing such as double insurance. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I would not know about that unless, you know, Fawn have told me. And I'm glad I did, because I had such complication with my birth that the bill that we got, it was like over $100,000, but we only, I think we paid like $200. I don't know. I don't remember. Don't quote me on it.
That's insane. That's a lot of money
Yeah.
when there are other countries in the world. I mean, someone mentions it kind of in the chat about it really depends on what part of the world you live in as to how you get treated as a parent, and healthcare is obviously a big part of that. One of the things, we've kind of answered this question, but I feel like I just want you guys to
I want to know how much time Shreya took.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go on.
A bit of an interesting situation because I used to work at a visual effects company called Rhythm and Hues, and they went bankrupt and everyone got laid off. So basically I lost my job, and then, you know, just sitting around at home, applying to freelance jobs and things. And I think that's when my husband and I decided, you know, we are like, maybe this is a good time to have a baby. Yeah, it's like a sign or whatever. And to answer your question, for me, it was like about 8 years, I think, of working. And then that's when I had my baby. So the first 3 months were really bad. I had terrible morning sickness when I was pregnant. So I didn't really take up any jobs then. But then I tried to take in small freelance jobs when I could, which is also hard when you've been working full time because you don't have freelance clients. And then just building that up itself is like a whole thing, right? But I think luckily, like I had some savings and my husband was very supportive. Like he was handling a lot of the expenses. So it didn't feel very stressful for me, at least back then. But, you know, it's like everyone's individual situations, right?
It's great. It's so funny that like just life just kind of dealt you this like thing to be like, okay, this is a good time for you to have it. And the kind of is linked to the question that I wanted to ask, that someone asked in the chat. It's more about just reassuring anyone that's listening that you can have a kid and still maintain your career. He or she was asking that it feels like it's impossible almost for young women to even pursue having a family right now. Like, let's just
with
say
all the competition in the industry. So do you feel it's possible for young women to even pursue a family also while trying to enter in?
I mean, I will say yes. Like, you should try it, you know, before shutting it down, you know, but I think like the thing we need to talk about too is like the life you had before the kid, you know, like I think like everyone here can relate. You would do, you know, conventions, you would do art shows, you would do all these things that like they fill my life, and I am so happy they're gone now, you know, like this is the one thing I'm doing now is this panel, and then I'm doing another panel. But yeah, like I think you can't do it all. that's the one thing, you know, like you can have a job, but like I think in our industry, it's like, oh, I'm going to try this and that. And, oh, and there's a show over here that they want me to do, or Comic-Con, you know, at least for me. And if you can do it, like you're a badass parent, you know, like, but for me, I had to be like, I have to stop for my sanity. You know, I have enough with my full-time job. And I love to do all those things, but you know, my girls need my time and I have to give it to them. And also I need time to just like decompress and take a break because it's already a lot. But I don't know, that's just for me.
If I knew better, I would have kids at my younger years, and I would probably have more than one. That's like right now, it's because of my age, and I just don't want to have to go through another pregnancy where the doctor told me I'm having a geriatric pregnancy. I'm just done with that. Like I can't take that. I'm like, fuck you. No.
Yeah, your emotional well-being can't be told at like the age of 35 that I'm having a geriatric pregnancy. It's
Yes.
insane.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have to update that age. I mean, come on.
Yes, they really do.
Especially like, I mean, kind of related to the question, if you're like, you know, if you are going for a career or working on your career or whatever, working full time, and like, I mean, really, you're not going to make a baby at age like 30. Like it's for everyone, almost everyone I know, it's after a 35-year-old geriatric pregnancies.
One thing that I will say, if you're worried about like the competition and being able to keep up and do all the things and have a family, you will put yourself in a much better position if you have your kid in your 20s, because you will be tired when you're in your 30s to be able to, like, you won't want to go and do all the Comic-Cons, you won't want to like stay up and do, you know, refine your craft, because you will be tired. So like if you are in your 20s and you're in a position that you feel like you want to have, if you know that you want to have kids, like I feel like so much we're always waiting for this like magical moment in time to do something, and that's not just related to being
after this deadline, and then this happens,
right,
and then this happens. That's the time.
It's never the right time.
Yeah, there's never gonna be a perfect time, and if you're constantly waiting for that perfect time in whatever it is that you're doing in your life, you actually might look back and be like, oh man, that was the perfect time, like right now, like 5 years ago. So if it's something that would be my take on it, that if it's something that you know that you want, it doesn't have to be a barrier to entry for achievement.
And moms are
less
like
tired.
Very, very efficient with time. Like when you become a parent, you're very efficient with time. You get very productive, and like you know how to use your like limited time up to maximum. Like Griselda was saying earlier, that I don't have the luxury to sip coffee and like get in the mood to draw. Like you just almost like work harder. So I think, I think you can do it. You can have a family or like and try to break in the industry at the same time. Like you figure it out.
And I want to the flip side of what Neysa said of like, okay, you might not go to conventions sometime. Like I personally really struggled with, because it took us so long to have a child, all of my images of what I was going to be like as a mom didn't really age with like the 4 to 5 years it took us to get there. So by the time I had a kid, I wasn't like, I don't want to make your Halloween costumes from scratch, you know, or like all these things that you had kind of envisioned. Like, did you struggle with the mom you had in your head versus the mom that you are?
I honestly,
for me,
go ahead, Shreya.
I think for me, like, especially when I had just had my baby, and, you know, like you go to all the mommy blogs and like all those photos and stuff, and people are doing like 110% and you're at like 30% of it maybe, you know, and I feel like that made me feel very like inadequate. Like I'm not doing enough, or I'm not like living up to like what the ideal mom should be. You know, I remember like there was this one incident where, you know, like you have the wraps for the kids, not the ones with the buckles, but there's one that's like a super long like cloth thing. And I tried so many times to put it on with my baby and it just wouldn't stay. I'm like, I cannot figure out this one small thing, like what's wrong with me, right? But I think like my mom said, like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, your baby's fine, you know, she's happy, like, you know, you fed her, she's clean, everything. that's really all it is. Like, you know, anything beyond, above and beyond that is if you want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. You know, I think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves. And I think an important thing to remember is just to be kind to yourself also, you know, instead of going like, I don't do this correctly, or, you know, like I remember once having a breakdown, like crying, going like, I feel so bad for this baby. She has the worst mom ever. Like, I don't know how to do anything. But like, that's the thing too. Like you don't like magically have like mom information in your head, you know, you have to learn, and, you know, you kind of grow with your baby in that way. So, yeah.
That's really awesome advice. I think just for anyone in the industry or not in the industry, anyone that's looking to become a parent, like you're not magically, you know, there's in like intuition and like mothering instincts or whatever, but yeah, you're going to get a ton of stuff wrong. Like, and everyone does. And if anyone that says that they don't are lying. We've got a few more minutes. I want
maybe one last question, or you think?
Well, I was just thinking about like any of the, like, we always tend to end on like tips and tricks, like any sort of life-saving day-to-day tips or tricks on how you kind of get through manage, you know, balancing being a parent and your job. If anyone wants to take that, or if no one has any tips and that everyone's just fucking struggling, that's fine too.
For me,
like it's both, right? Like,
yeah,
it's a struggle, and then some tips. I don't know. For me, like for me, it's important that my kids eat healthy, you know, and then some weeks it's not very healthy. So I take my Sunday and I make the meals for the whole week, like for all my kids. And then like the little tiny one has like the like Yumi like food, like little jars that you order, whatever. But yeah, like I'll take the time, and it takes like 5 hours and I'm freaking exhausted. But I know when, as soon as I get home from my long day, the food will be ready because I got it ready, you know. So I just take one day a week to do that. And that's helped a lot, because even if I'm running late to come home, I know there's food ready for her and she'll be good to go. So
when you say run late, are you going in this office? Are you going in to the office?
No, like my office, like I don't have an office. That's been a really big struggle because the kids are being watched at my house. So I'm going to my mom's house in her guest room, right? And I'm driving back.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. For me, knowing and accepting that I will not do it all, and I can't do it all, is has been very good mentally for me. And just have a priority. What are my priority? And my priority is Alex, Norm, the cats, and work. And that's the list. As long as Alex is well fed, he's clean, he's happy, I'm happy. I got my work done, Disney work done, great. You know, I of course, do I want to do personal work right now? That's on the back burner. Like right now, it is a priority for me and Norm to have quality time with Alex, and to have art be in his life, because I'm really preparing ourselves for his teenage year, and I know that teenage year is really tough. And for me, I was a troubled teenager, and having art really saved me, because I have a way to, you know, express myself, to connect, you know, and I want that for him. So for me, that is really important. And then another thing is that, you know, we have dinner together every night where we just talk about the day. Sometimes it's bitching, doesn't matter, but it's talking. And I even ask Alex, how you doing, blah, 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 because I want him to get used to talking to us, you know, later on. And so I'm like building all this thing. So for me, you know what, if I do a little bit of artwork with him, even though it's water painting that disappear, or chalk painting, or scribble, or, you know, whatever, and then we sit down and eat, when we talk a little bit about our day and I finish my work, that's a win.
How about you, Eda?
I think it's really important to prioritize ourselves as well. Like when we make a list of what is important, or when we, how do I say this? Self-care basically very quickly goes down to the bottom of the priority list. Because we always like take care of other, our kids and our partners and work, cats. I have 2 cats too. And then like what about me? Like I tend to like not think about myself at all. So like I have learned to not feel guilty for asking time for myself and creating time for myself. So I used to like even ask my partner, can I like, take a couple of hours for myself and do this? And I don't even, it's not really a question. This is what I'm doing. So I need help this time. And I don't feel guilty anymore. Like even today, I mean, it's all a struggle. Like I was putting my son down for nap and I was very strict. Like I have 10 minutes to pull my hair up and go open my laptop in my studio. You're going to bed now. So like, this is all the time you have, 1 book. And he like played along. So I don't really, I shouldn't say I don't ever feel guilty, like, cause it's always a struggle, but like, I think that's one thing, like, okay, I'm important too. Like I have to remind myself. Cause if I'm not happy, I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good parent. I'm not a good partner. I'm not a good friend. So I have to keep myself happy and content so I can be the mom I want to be, basically.
Mask over yourself first before others, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot, Eda. That's really great. I forgot to mention that I start taking therapy sessions after I got my after Alex, because I had a really bad postpartum depression. Getting to therapy and then getting medication that help, with the chemical, and knowing that, what, sometimes it's just chemical. It's not you. It's okay. Asking for help, asking for being realistic about, the hormone changes in your body. It's okay. And then later on, when you're not on medication anymore, it's okay to say, I can't do it all. I also have a cleaning lady, by the way. Sorry, I forgot to mention that she is a lifesaver. I honestly feel that the more all of us are honest about who is helping us, whether we are men or women, the better it is for all of us.
I love that. I think that's super important. It's so easy to get caught up in how everyone else seems to be acing their life while you're having a meltdown at home or whatever, and you're like, oh, that person probably does have whatever it is. So yeah, that's super important. I like that you mentioned that. How about you, Shreya? Any tips?
For me, especially when my daughter was much younger, like it felt like, this is my life now. Like, you get so overwhelmed with all the things you have to do with your kid. And I know no one really wants to hear like, oh, it gets better, or like, they grow up so fast and all that. But honestly, like as artist parents, like sometimes it's so cool to be able to share all your interests with your kids. Like my daughter and I draw together. In fact, like Griselda, I've been using your book to teach her a lot of like the drawing stuff. Like she likes fashion a lot right now, so we're doing all these different design things. She really likes it. But play games together, like on the PlayStation, or like the movies you watch together. Like I love animated movies. You do that stuff together. So I think it's really cool to be able to like really bond with your kid over that. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's still like it's always something to look forward to. So even though sometimes it may feel like overwhelming and things, they do eventually grow up and become their own people. And sometimes they tell you that they need alone time, and you get so happy because then you also needed alone time sometimes.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it is. I get when they do get older, it is easier, and it's fun that you can do. You still feel like you can kind of do fun things that you enjoy as an adult, but the kid enjoys too. We just took our daughter to see Shang-Chi like 2 weeks ago, and that was super fun being able to share that with her, and she was just like so excited to be like back at a movie theater. Like we're at the stage now where she doesn't really remember having been at a movie theater because she was too young. Like the memory, I mean, I don't know, Shreya, it might be the same because I think our kids are the same age, but being able to do stuff with your kid as they get older definitely is easier and more challenging, but it's that does help immensely.
Well,
But
thank you all for coming.
thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. If you want to rewatch it, it'll be up on our YouTube. Sorry we didn't get to everybody's questions, but thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us.
Have a good day. Have a great rest of your Lightbox.
Yeah.
Thank you for organizing this, Rachel and Nicole.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's always good to chat with you, and hopefully one day we can like meet in person.
Oh, that will be so great. I still feel like there's so much more to say.
For real.
Yeah, this is such a great fun subject. It's
you just said postpartum. I was like, I went through the same thing.
Right. Yeah, you're like
so much I want to talk about, and these
God.
things like moms tend to like not talk about, just to like
look
like you're acing everything. There's so much to say.
Not at all, because I've seen some, we've seen so many different type of women, right? Some women who are just like such open book, and then I'm like, oh, I work out like this many hours a day. This is the one, this is one thing that I'm always like, what, this like all natural look, right? It's just like, oh, you just wake up like that. It takes time to look good. I'm sorry, man. If you look naturally beautiful, it takes a lot of time. And I just want people to be honest with that. So I love it when people are like, yep, it takes me this much, this, and this to like get ready, Yeah. And it's the same thing with postpartum depression.
Yeah. Most artists, I didn't even know that it was okay to feel the way I felt, it was really difficult, and I couldn't open up anyone, even including my partner, like just thinking that I will, like I thought there was something wrong with me.
Oh, absolutely. And most artists are slightly depressed to begin with. Like, let's just admit that.
I like to call it emotionally vulnerable, right?
Yeah. Slightly
I say emotional type, like
emotionally, vulnerable, emotionally large, it's like, and just knowing that and be realistic about, okay, this might happen. So and having babies at later age also means that a lot of your friends have babies before. So I have the advantage of learning from them that, oh, this could happen. So I promised myself 2 weeks after I have my baby, if I don't feel good, that I'm gonna get right on it right away. And it's great to have other moms that told me that before, that hey, it's okay. It's a-okay.
Yeah, and it's normal
to talk to each other more openly.
Yes.
Yeah. Transparency is good.
That's why I was so happy you brought up sleep training, because sleep is very tied to my mental health. And so that's what I was really worried about. So we spent the money to rent a snoo, which was the best thing we ever did, that little robot bassinet.
Yeah.
And we did have a couple of nights of a night nurse. That was a very luxurious baby shower gift. And it was like, where I wish that we would normalize more talking about a night nurse, because nannies are great, but sometimes you just need to sleep, especially if it's part of taking care of your mental health. And then I was really low a couple of weeks ago, and I spent the money and went to a hotel, and I just slept for 24 hours. And it was the most self-care, luxurious gift I've ever given to myself. I didn't really do anything other than sleep, but sometimes, it's about putting your mask.
Yeah, that is all that you need. Yep. Well done.
Yeah, let's normalize mental health and motherhood, right? Yeah.
Taking vacations and overnight hotels without anybody.
A mile away from home.
A mile away from home. Yeah. No, but that's worth it. You're out of your house. We've all been stuck at home, so really being a mile away from home is so luxurious right now.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, my child is screaming upstairs, so I'm going to go care for him. But it was lovely seeing all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Likewise.